Right. Good morning, everyone. We're going to get started here shortly. Just waiting for a couple more people to join. So hang tight. We will get started here in just a few minutes. So to save time for everybody, we're going to go ahead and get started. This is a live session. Typically, we have a recording of it. We were having issues with the recording, so we're going to go ahead and do a live presentation today. So feel free to ask questions. I'm going to pull up our presentation now. All right. Now, you guys should have access. I don't know if we had sent over a copy of this presentation, but we do have it all on our YouTube channel. So for whatever reason, if you need to go back and listen to our actual recording that we have of this, feel free to. But I guess I should introduce myself. So my name is Jessica, and I am a retirement services consultant here with the Indiana Public Retirement System. I cover Marion County. I do our virtual sessions and our in-office ones at our downtown location at One North Capitol. Now, we don't have a big group of people here today, and I looked at everybody's account, and it looks like everyone is in the hybrid account. So I'm just going to skip over the My Choice information, but if you have questions, definitely let me know. So we'll go ahead and get started. So just a little background information about us. So the Indiana Public Retirement System, also known as INPERS, we do manage approximately $46.7 billion in assets. That's as of June 30th of 2023. We use a lot of acronyms here, so I will refer to us as INPERS. So hopefully you guys are all familiar with that. Now, we are among one of the largest 100 pension funds in the United States. We are paying out our members or even survivors every month. So we're paying more than 160,000 individuals each month. Our Teachers Retirement Fund was actually founded first in 1921, and then our Public Employees Retirement Fund was founded in 1945. It was voted on to kind of combine perf and turf together, and we have been doing that since 2011, and that's what created the Indiana Public Retirement System. Now, who participates in INPERS? So we have a lot of people who participate. So over 500,000 members and over 1,300 plus public employers. So some of our employers include the state of Indiana. This is our biggest group of employers, but then we also have employers from different cities, towns, counties, school corporations, and universities. So just because you're in a perf or turf covered position where you're at doesn't mean that you can't move to another employer who's covered with perf or turf and continue on with your retirement. Now, we do cover different funds too. So under our INPERS umbrella, perf and turf, that's our Public Employees Retirement Fund, and our Teachers Retirement Fund, those are the biggest funds that we administer. We do have some small funds. So the 1977 fund, that's for police officers and firefighters. We do have a fund for our judges, for our state excise, police, gaming agent, gaming control officer, and conservation enforcement officers, as well as prosecuting attorneys and legislators. Today, we're just going to focus on perf and turf, though. So as far as this workshop, I have a couple main objectives. So I want you to understand your retirement plan benefit. I want you to know your benefit options and then how you can apply for those benefits. So again, it looks like everybody here is in the hybrid plan. So you do have two parts to your plan, which we are going to talk more in detail about today. So you have your defined benefit, and that's just a fancy word for pension. Now, you have to have 10 years of service to be fully vested in your pension. The next is a defined contribution account. So think of this as a retirement savings account. You are always 100% vested in the money that's in this account. Like I said, we're going to skip through the My Choice plan and we're going to just start right with the hybrid plan. So, with the hybrid plan, there are different types of benefits that we are going to cover. So, we have a disability benefit, survivor benefit, a normal retirement with a full benefit, and then an early retirement with a reduced benefit. Now, with your two-part plan, like I said, you have your pension and then that defined contribution account. So, when you are filling out your application, there are two separate things that you'll have to make decisions with. So the first pre-retirement benefit I want to cover is a disability benefit. So if you have 5 years of service, there is no age requirement when it comes to a disability benefit. But if you are deemed disabled while you're active and on payroll, then you may be eligible for a disability benefit. You would have to be deemed disabled by Social Security, and they would have to provide you with a Social Security awards letter in order to apply for that benefit. The next one is a survivor benefit before retirement. So if you have at least 10 years of service, so you're already vested for your pension, but you happen to pass before receiving those pension benefits. If you have a surviving spouse of at least 2 years or any dependent children, then they may be entitled to a survivor benefit upon your passing. Hopefully, nobody is ever going to need any of these pre-retirement benefits, but it's at least good information to have and know that it is there if needed. Now, with that structure, so again, your pension and your defined contribution account, we're going to talk a little bit more about the pension first. So, your pension is a lifetime benefit. It does not run out. Once you start drawing that benefit, you're going to get that payment every month for the rest of your life. The pension is fully funded by your employer. So, what's happening with the pension? Think of it as a big pot of money. All those 1,300 plus public employers that I mentioned before, they're putting in contributions into this big pot of money. So, once you are age and service eligible, there's a formula that we use to determine that benefit. So, it's going to be your final average salary multiplied by your years of service multiplied by 1.1%. That'll give you an annual pension benefit. But once you decide what monthly pension option you want, we're going to pull it from that big pot of money. So we always have contributions coming in from the employers reporting on you guys, the members, and then we have those payments that are going out. So it's constantly being funded, and then we are also having those constant payouts. Your benefit is determined by a couple different things. So your age, salary, service, and then whatever retirement option that you've chosen. And you have to have, again, that 10-year vesting status to even be eligible for your pension. It does not have to be 10 consecutive years of service. So you can start and stop service as often as you need to. As long as you have that collective 10 years of service, you will be eligible for a pension. Now, normal retirement eligibility. So, again, you have to have the 10 years of service to even be vested for the pension. So, once you have your 10 years of service, you can start to draw that pension benefit at 65. If you have 15 or more years of service, then you can start to draw that pension at age 60. And then we have a third way of meeting eligibility, and that's the rule of 85. So if you take your age plus your years of service, if it equals 85 or more, then you would qualify for a pension benefit. So in the example we have for the rule of 85, if you are 55, let me go back. If you're 55 and you have 30 years of service, then that equals 85. So you could start to collect that full pension at 55. Now, if you decide that you want to start pulling your pension at a reduced level, you can take an early retirement with that reduced pension. You have to have at least 15 years of service, but if you do between the ages of 50 and 59, you can retire with a reduced pension. What we do is we calculate that full pension benefit, and you would only be receiving a portion of that. So, for an example, age 50, you would have you want to apply for that pension, you can. If you have the 15 years of service, we would calculate that pension and you would only receive 44% of that pension. The longer that you postpone pulling your pension until full eligibility, that percentage will go up 5% each year between 50 and 59. The biggest takeaway with early retirement is if you do decide to take early retirement, it is going to stay at that reduced level for the rest of your life. So even once you meet normal eligibility, there is no recalculation. It'll stay at that reduced pension. Now, it is important to know. So, if you leave service and you are in a reduced status, you can wait until you are eligible for your full benefit. So, if you're leaving employment and you still have 5 years before you're fully vested, there's no penalty to waiting. And we're not going to force you to start drawing on an early retirement. So, in these cases, if you're not planning to go back into a perf or turf covered position, it's up to you to remember, okay, in 5 years, I need to apply for my pension. So, whether you make a note in your calendar, in your phone, something like that to just kind of remind you when to fill out your application, you can definitely wait until you meet full eligibility. Now, if you're no longer working in a covered position and you are eligible to start drawing your pension, you should take it. It's very different than Social Security. So, your pension value is not going to grow um, the longer you postpone pulling that. So, once you're separated from your position, if you're eligible to start pulling your pension, you could do it and you should do it so that way you're not missing out on any type of benefit. Now, a couple things I want to mention. You can collect your retirement benefit while you are still working if you meet the criteria. So, we have two different retirement types that allow this. One of them is a Millie Morgan retirement option, and you have to have at least 20 years of service and be age 65. So, if you are still working in your covered position and you're 65 with that 20 years of service, you can start to pull your pension benefit while you're still working. Nothing is going to change. You'll still get your vacation time, sick time. You can still contribute to your defined contribution account as well. The only thing that you would be doing is freezing your pension benefit and starting to draw that. We have another option for our elected officials. So, if you are a minimum age of 55 and you have 20 or more years of service, while you are still serving in that elected official position, you can start to pull your pension. Now, if you are younger than 60, there could be a reduced benefit that would apply unless you meet the rule of 85. And your benefit is going to be effective the month after you submit your application. So if you submit your application for Millie Morgan this month in November, your retirement date and when you would start drawing that would be December the 1st. Now, when we talk about your pension and the different pieces that we use to come up with that formula, the first one is your final average salary. So, depending on which fund that you're in, that's going to be different. So, if you are a PERF member, you're retiring from the PERF plan, we're going to look at your 20 highest quarters in groups of 4 consecutive quarters. If you are retiring from the teacher's retirement fund, we're going to be looking at your 5 highest contracted salary years throughout your whole career. Okay. Then what we're going to do is look at your years of service and then multiply that by 1.1%. So that is how we find your final average salary. Now, the second part of that equation is your service. So again, this is also calculated differently depending on which fund that you're in. So for PERF members, your service is earned on a month-to-month basis. So you can work just one day out of the month and get credit for that whole month of service. Teachers, it's more off of a fiscal year, a regular school year. So if you work anywhere from 60 to 119 days, you get half a year of service. Once you hit 120 days that you've worked, you get a full year of service. So, what is happening is your school is reporting to us every pay period how many days that you work. So, once you hit that 60, you get your half year. Once you get 120, you get that full year. Now, any type of approved leaves of absence can also count towards service. So, we're talking about maternity leave, unpaid leave, adoption leave. If you are curious about eligibility when it comes to that, just give us a call and we can let you know. Now you can purchase service. So there are a couple stipulations around this. You do have to have at least 1 year of service in either a perf or turf covered position in order to purchase service. You do have to be currently employed and covered in a position to even be eligible. So you can't leave your position and then a year down the road say, hey, I think I want to purchase some service. No, you have to be currently active in your position in order to be eligible for that. Now, you cannot purchase service to become vested. So, if you have 9 years of service, you cannot purchase 1 year in order to have the 10 years. You actually have to work the full 10 years to get that service. There's different types of service that you can purchase. So if you are interested, just reach out to us. We can let you know the cost of that. But just to name a couple, we have out of state service, private school service, substitute teaching. If you have had military service prior to being in a perf or turf covered position, you can purchase up to 2 years of that. And then additional airtime is what we call it. So once you have the 10 years of service, if you want to add more, you can purchase 1 year for every 5 years that you've worked. So if we do that calculation, if you have your 10 years of service, you can purchase up to 2 extra years, and that would be part of your pension calculation. I do always like to say it can be pretty expensive. It is not expensive at all. It doesn't cost you anything to find out how much it would cost to purchase it. But it can be pretty pricey once you do get those numbers. But if you are interested, let us know. We do have an estimating tool on our website that you can utilize as well. So putting everything together for that formula, we'll take your final average salary, again, multiply it by your years of service, and then multiply that by 1.1%. If you then divide that amount by 12, that's going to give you a rough estimate of what you're looking at on a month-to-month basis. Now, the estimate tools that are online and the ones that we provide for you are all before taxes. So your pension is taxable income. I just like to let people know right off the bat. And we do cover the taxes on the application. So that way you can get a rough estimate of what you can expect. But if you are interested in running your own benefit estimate, if you log into the myinpersretirement.org website, we have all of those calculators there. So you can play with those numbers if you want to get a more accurate estimate. Now, defined benefit options. So these are going to be your pension options. And it can be a very important decision because you are going to receive this monthly benefit for the rest of your life. So before choosing a pension option, you can ask yourself some different questions. How much of a monthly income are you going to need after you retire? Do you have a spouse or somebody else who is going to need some type of payment once you pass? Do you have to list a beneficiary? How long are they going to need this income for? So there are a lot of things to think through when you are thinking about those pension options. Like I said, we can have up to 5 different options for that pension benefit. The reason that it might be less is if you do name a survivor who's a lot younger, they might not have specific survivor benefit options. But we're going to talk through all these. So the first one is a 5-year certain in life, and this is going to be a lifetime benefit that's paid to the member. In the event that the member does not receive 5 years of a benefit, otherwise known as 60 payments, then whoever they have listed as a beneficiary, it could be one person, it could be numerous people, they're going to receive the remainder of those benefits. So let's just say that you choose that option and you receive 40 of your pension payments, and then something happens and you pass. there are 40 payments that have not been, I'm sorry, 20 payments that have not been paid out if you've already received the 40. So we would take your monthly benefit and we would multiply it by the 20 payments you did not receive, and then we would pay that out to who you have listed. If you receive those 60 payments and then pass after the first 5 years, there wouldn't be anything that would be due to any of your beneficiaries. So if you were to pass, nothing would be due. The straight life option just pays you, the member, and when you pass, the benefit stops. So there's nobody else that we're looking at. There's no other type of payout. And then the next three options are survivor options. You can name anybody who has a social security number, but really with the percentage, you're looking at what percent of your pension benefit do you want to pass along to your survivor. Once you pass and your survivor starts receiving their payments, they're going to receive their monthly benefit every month until they pass. And then at that time, the benefit does stop. There is an add-on option with Social Security integration. If you want to integrate your Social Security into your pension before 62, you can. Just know that once you hit 62, your pension is going to drop by what is estimated Social Security to be paying you. And then there's also going to be an extra reduction, and that's going to be a lifetime reduction. But if you are interested in that, let us know and we can walk you through those options. Now, this might help explain what we were talking about a little bit more. So this is an example of a benefit estimate that we provide to our members just to show how we're calculating everything and the numbers that we're using. So at the top of this, it's just going to have your member information. So date of birth, your retirement date, and then your survivor information. When calculating your annual pension benefit, we'll show you what we're using for your final average salary. We'll get a collective of your service, and then we'll let you know what that unreduced pension benefit is going to be. So you can see with taking final average salary, multiplying it by 30 years of service, and then multiplying that by 1.1%. Here in this example, we're getting an annual pension benefit of $16,500. On the second page is where we split out those monthly options. So this helps explain everything. So with the 5-year certain in life, the member would receive $5 less than the straight life option. But again, if they were to pass within the first 5 years, then there would be some type of lump sum due to their beneficiaries. Straight life option is just maximizing pension, and that's going to be the 138016. And then the survivor benefit. So if you look at the monthly benefit column, that is the column that is showing the member what their payment is going to be. So for an example, the 100% benefit, we have $1242.51. When the member passes, if they choose this option, their spouse, the far right column under survivor benefit, they're going to get the same exact payment every month until they pass. Whereas the 50% for a little bit more upfront, the member can get $1308.10. And then when they pass, the survivor would get half of that benefit. So that would be the $654.05. Now, something I do want to mention is that you can change this pension option even after retirement. So for instance, if you decide you want to choose the straight life option and then 8 years down the road, you want to add a survivor, you can. We would do a recalculation. Again, we look at life expectancy when it comes to your survivor, but we could do a recalculation for that benefit. And then from there, you can decide what you want to do. And then the other way, if you choose a survivor and something happens to where either you don't want to have them as a survivor anymore, or maybe they pass before you do, you can either name somebody else and we would do a recalculation, or you can change it to the straight life option and maximize your pension at that point. The only thing you cannot do is go from either a straight life or a survivor benefit to the 5-year certain in life option, just because that is a guarantee for the first 5 years of your retirement. Now, there are a couple examples here. I'm not going to go over these in detail, but it's just to kind of show you what changes if maybe, well, I guess I'll mention this one. So for this example, there's a survivor who's a non-spouse and they're only 25 years old. So you can see that their only survivor option is the 50% survivor option, just because, again, the survivor is so young. So in these instances, when you do have a younger survivor, you might only have the 50% option. I have seen some with the 66 and 2/3, but more than likely when they're that young, it's not going to be an option for the 100% survivor option. So in this example, this member, instead of having 5 pension options, would only have 3. To the second part of your account. So far we've talked about your pension. Um, Something I want to mention with your pension is you're never going to see a monetary value or a balance with your pension when you log into your account. When you log into your account with Voya, the defined contribution account, that is what you are looking at when you see that monetary value. So that's the second part of your account. That's a cash accumulation, and that does consist of a 3% mandatory contribution, and that's either paid by you, the member, or your employer, or both. Now, you can always do voluntary contributions. You can do up to 10% of your gross wages, and it is all on a post tax basis. So, if you are interested in bulking up this account before retirement, just talk with your HR or even your payroll department. Let them know what percentage that you would like, and then they'll start making those deductions from your paycheck. With the defined contribution, again, there's that mandatory 3% that is going in that account every single pay period. This money always belongs to you, so you are fully vested in the money that's in your defined contribution account. There are no loans or hardship withdrawals available, so you do have to have some type of separation from employment before you can do something with the money in this account. There is an option for an in-service distribution if you qualify. So if you are 59 and a half and you are already eligible for a full retirement benefit, you can start to take money from your defined contribution account without separating and having that 30-day separation. Now, you are in charge of investing the money that's in your defined contribution account. If you have not done anything with it, you might still be sitting in a target date fund. It is the default fund that you are placed in when you are a new employee. Now, a target date fund offers a blend of investments that becomes more and more conservative the closer that you get to retirement age. It's going to reallocate on its own. It's kind of like a set it and forget it method. So you don't have to go in and change anything from year to year. If you are more investment savvy, you can change your allocations and pick it manually. So under Do It Myself, you can see the different funds that are available. We're not financial advisors here, so we can't tell you how to invest your money, but we do have a lot of resources on our website that can educate you on the choices that you have. We have investment fund fact sheets. We also have a risk tolerance quiz. It's about 8 questions. After you get your results, there are some suggestions on how we would set up an asset allocation for you based off of those answers. But you can change your allocations as often as you want to. Even if you get out of a target date fund and then go back into one, you can do that anytime. Now, your allocations have to be made in whole increments of 1% or more, and your total for all fund investments has to be 100%. So, meaning you have to have everything invested. You can change your options daily. So, 2 ways that you can do it: you can call our call center and we can help you with changing that over the phone, or you can log into the mynprsretirement.org website and you can change it there as well. Now, something I want to mention about your investment allocation. So when you change it, we do send out quarterly statements. So I always suggest to review that. If you're constantly changing your allocations on a day-to-day basis or even a week-to-week basis, you're never going to know what is actually helping your account. So we send out quarterly statements. Hopefully you guys are familiar with that. So just review those if you are interested in learning more about your defined contribution account and what your investment allocation is doing to your account. Now, when you are trying to come up with your options on what to do with your defined contribution account, we have a couple suggestions of things to think about. So, are you needing to reduce, eliminate, or even prevent debt? Do you need to have this money very easily accessible? Do you want to supplement your pension and get the highest possible monthly income for the rest of your life and purchase an annuity? So there's a lot of different options. We have about 5 different options with your defined contribution account. So we're going to talk through those. So here are those 5 options. So defer your payment, rollover, lump sum distribution, systematic withdrawal plan, purchasing an annuity with or without cash refund, or you can even split your defined contribution balance and you can do a combination of some of these different things. So the first one we're going to talk about is deferring your payment. So you can leave your balance with us as long as you want until April 1st of the year following your 73rd birthday, or leaving employment, whichever is later. So your money with us will still be involved in your investment allocation and you can still change it. So even though no contributions are going into your account, you can still change how you have it invested to potentially still see some growth with that account. And then whenever you are ready to start taking distribution, you can. Something to make sure that you're doing with this option is keeping your beneficiaries up to date. Because if something were to happen to you and you pass, we would want to make sure that your money is going where you want it to go. Another option is a rollover. So you can move your full balance to another plan. Now, it has to be a qualified plan. So typically, another retirement savings account. This can be a traditional IRA, a 401k, 457, 403b. So it does become taxable when it is distributed to you from your rollover account, but it is a tax deferred option when you roll it over. So we are not going to withhold any taxes from it. We'll send you a rollover check in the mail for the full balance, and then you have 60 days to get it into that other account to avoid any type of penalties. Something to consider is if you have any pre-tax money. So if you have any pre-tax money, a lot of the times people will want to take that pre-tax money since it's already been taxed, and they want to get that rolled over into their actual bank account. You can do that, and then the rest of it can go to another financial institute. So just know that you have options when it comes to that rollover. Another option is a lump sum. So you can do a full or even a partial lump sum. It is taxable in the year that that is paid out. Now, the lump sum does come with a pretty heavy federal withholding at 20% automatically. So 20%, and then if you want to withhold for Indiana and county, you can elect to do that too. That's roughly about another 5% depending on where you live. So once those taxes are withheld, the rest of that balance will get direct deposited right into your account. One of our newer options is a systematic withdrawal plan. So with this option, there are 4 different frequencies that you'll have to choose from: monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, and annually. So what happens is you would select one of those, and then you would pick for how many years that you want to have those systematic withdrawals. So let's say you want quarterly payments for 9 years. We would go ahead and set up that for you. You can start and stop a systematic withdrawal plan anytime. But the idea is with the systematic withdrawal plan, after that final payment, your account is gone. The money that's in your account is still being invested. So remember, with each payment, it could be a little bit different depending how your investments are going with your account. So just know it might not be that same payment every single month. If you are doing a systematic withdrawal plan for longer than 10 years, federal and state tax withholding will be established. So every distribution that you're getting, taxes will be withheld. Here's a couple examples of a systematic withdrawal plan. So this member has $50,000 in their account and they wanted to do a 15-year monthly systematic withdrawal plan. So their first payment is going to be $277.77. What we do is basically take your balance and divide it by how many payments that you should be receiving. So again, you could have different payments each month, and you can always end a systematic withdrawal plan whenever you want to. And then you can always purchase an annuity. So with an annuity, you're basically purchasing a lifetime monthly benefit. Same thing as a pension, but you're purchasing it with your balance. We partner with MetLife and have been since 2018. So if you're wanting your regular pension payment and then another guaranteed lifetime monthly benefit, this might be a good option for you. We do have survivor options just like we do with the pension. And then there is also a cash refund or a no cash refund option, which we're going to talk about here shortly. You can mix and match. So if you want to do your full balance for an annuity, you can, or if you want to do a partial, you can. You do have to purchase for at least $5,000 for this to be an option. A couple things to consider when you are purchasing an annuity. So once you choose your option, it cannot be changed, but you also cannot outlive the monthly benefit. So again, we have single premium options, fixed income annuities. So we have a lot of options when it comes to purchasing this. If you go onto the myinpersretirement.org website, there is a MetLife calculator that you can use, and you can look at all of these options to see what is going to be most beneficial for you. So here's a couple examples. Again, it has the same options as we do with the straight life and then the survivor options. With a cash refund is basically saying if the member happens to pass and they have not collected their $50,000, what was the original price purchase for the annuity, then their beneficiary would get a lump sum of what was not paid out to the member. So you can do without a cash refund and get a little bit more each month, or you can do it with a cash refund. And again, it's just decreased a little bit. So if you scan this code, this is going to take you to a retirement income center. So this will help you with making those calculations and providing some of that information for you if you are thinking about the annuities. Now, splitting the defined contribution balance, here's just a couple options of what people have done. So maybe you want to do a lump sum for part of it, leave some with us, and then purchase an annuity. You can do that. You can take a lump sum and then roll over the rest. Or maybe you want to defer some and then have 25% being an annuity. So just know that you can mix and match a lot of these options when it comes to that full balance. Now, rollover savings account, this is something that you can open up with InPERS. It is kept separate from your defined contribution account, but it does utilize the same investment options. So if you have another retirement savings account somewhere, we only accept pre-tax money. So if you roll something over, it would just open up a new rollover savings account for you, and you would not have to pay the additional $45 annual administration fee. Oops. Speaking of those fees, that could be something to consider when you are thinking about what to do with your money. So again, each member that has a defined contribution balance here with INPERS, there is that annual flat fee of $45. Um, so if you are looking at some of those other places where you want to put your money, looking at those fees can be important. So just kind of keep that into consideration. Now, we have provided a couple things to consider when you are thinking about those distribution options. Obviously, the fees, understanding what's being charged, who's managing my account. Not all fees are bad. If you're kind of hands off and you want somebody to manage your account, there's going to be fees that are acquired for that. Another thing to consider is life expectancy. So, plan on needing financial resources longer than you may think necessary. So, we have just provided on this slide a couple detailed facts about life expectancy. So, for average life expectancy in the US is approximately a little over 81 for females and for males 76. For those who have attained the age of 65, that life expectancy does increase. So for females, that's more a little bit closer to 86, and for males, just over 83. So think about that, how long you're going to potentially live into retirement and how much money you're going to need. Another thing, do you plan on working after retirement? Maybe you want to do a full time job or you want to do a part time job. If you do go back to a perf covered position, you just have to have a 30-day separation before you come back to a position. If you are going into the private sector, you can start right away. So think about that. So there is something that I think is, I don't want to say funny, but something to think about. 72% were surveyed prior to retirement that did plan on working at least some into retirement. However, only 30% do actually work into retirement. So, just some things to kind of consider what retirement looks like for you. Is it traveling? Is it working a part time job? But those are some things to consider when you are thinking about that benefit. I think I did just cover this. So, working after retirement, again, you have to have a 30-day separation. But once you have that 30-day separation, you can come back. You would not be re enrolled again into your retirement. So, there is no second retirement, and we would not do any recalculation. If you are wanting to go to the private sector, you can do that right away. And no matter where you work, there is no earning limitation. So you can work as long as you're able to, and it's not going to have any impact whatsoever on your pension. When you are ready, there are things to consider. So, discussing plans with your family, they're part of this plan too. If you have a financial planner or tax advisor, legal expert, anything like that, that can help with answering questions. Or if you have any concerns, they're good resources too. You want to make sure that you're choosing a retirement date that really fits your goals. And when you are ready to start that process, start to collect some of that information that you're going to need, documents, tax information, direct deposit information. You're going to need all that when it comes to submitting your application. Now, speaking of your application, when can you apply? So, you can apply for your benefits once you are within 6 months of your retirement date. It does take about 90 days or 3 months to process an application. So, I always suggest anywhere from 3 to 6 months prior to your retirement date is going to be the best time for you to fill out your application. We have numerous ways that you can fill out your application. So it is all online, so you can self-service. You can start your application on your own if you go to the myinpersretirement.org website. If you want to call our call center and talk with a representative on the phone, they can help with completing that application as well. So you'd want to call our 844 GO INPERS number. Or if you want to schedule a retirement consulting session with myself or one of my other colleagues, we would be more than happy to meet with you, pull an estimate, and also help you with filling out the application. All of our field staff can meet you at a library. So they're kind of in the field out there meeting people face to face. I do face to face appointments here at our downtown location as well as all of our virtual appointments. So I offer phone appointments and then also appointments on Teams. So just let us know as you're registering how you want to do the appointment, and we'll make that accommodation for you. Now, when you are ready to apply, or even if you just need an estimate, this is the login screen that you should be logging into to get onto your secure website. If you cannot remember your username and password, you can obviously get those either emailed to you or reset when it comes to the password. But this is what that login screen looks like. So just make sure that you're on that proper screen, and then that should get you into the system. Once you are ready to apply, the bottom corner on the left, there's a button that says Get Started. So with this, you can start and stop as often as you need to. So say you get to a point where you have questions, you need to save and log off, you can, and then just pick up right where you left off. The calculators are over there on the right-hand side. So again, you can do PERF and TERF retirement benefit calculators. And we also have our MetLife calculators in there as well. Now, this is just something helpful just to kind of give you that timeline on when you should be submitting your application. So for instance, if you're wanting to retire April 1st, you would want to try to have your application in by January 1st. Now, I'm still getting people, the end of the month in October, I was getting people signing up for November 1st. Retirement dates, which is completely fine. There's nothing that says you can't do that. The idea is to fill it out 90 days beforehand, because if you do, you're going to get your first payment within 30 to 45 days of your retirement date. So we try to close that gap between when you're getting your last paycheck and when your pension check is going to start. If you don't give us that 90-day window, again, that's completely fine. Some people do this very last minute, and that is okay. You can still submit your application. It just might take about 3 months or 90 days before you receive your first payment, but everything is going to be retroed. So let's just say that your retirement date, for those that were filling it out in October, for November 1st. So we have November, December, January. They might not receive their first pension check, I would say, until either January or even into February. So they would get 3 months, possibly 4 months of a benefit at one time, and then they would have their regular monthly distributions after that. Now, if you need to contact us, here's all of our contact information. The best email is questions@npers.in.gov. Again, we have our 844-GO-NPERS number, and then our mailing address. We are at 1 North Capitol. If you are close by, we do have representatives at the front desk to answer questions. That's where my office is. So let us know how we can help you plan for that retirement. If you scan this, it should be able to pop up on your phone NPERS information. So you can get to your secure website, you can check your balances. So if you are wanting to review your beneficiaries, just scan that code and it'll take you to your site. And that is everything that I have for today. So let me close out of this. And if I have any kind of questions, looks like we might have some. I apologize if I missed this in the beginning, but is there a way to download the slides? How do I know if in the hybrid? So Derek had answered no, but this video will be available on YouTube channel following this presentation. I don't think we have any other questions though, as of right now. So I'm just going to hang out here on the live camera. So if you have questions, please let me know. You can type them, you can give us a call. So, a lot of different ways that we can answer those questions for you. Thank you guys so much for joining. I hope you got a lot of good information on today's presentation, know a little bit more about retirement. Where'd my thing go? There we go. Of course, you're welcome, Amy. Thanks so much for joining today. So I will keep this chat up here for another couple minutes. So again, if you think of anything, just let me know. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have. And I'm going to go ahead and end the presentation. So thank you again so much for joining, and please reach out if you have any additional questions. Have a great day.